Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about the value of having as many training tools as possible available to you in your toolbox. But a point I also want to make here is that a lot of times people don't know when to use them. And this is one reason I tell people you need to be very well grounded in the basics, and you need to understand the basics, and you need to build your base off of the basics, right? So that you get a good understanding of training before you start introducing large numbers of new tools, unless you have a coach specifically guiding you, right? I might have some more advanced things that I have clients use who are not advanced lifters, but I very, very carefully work those into their training, and it's also to not overwhelm them and to not push them too far away from the basics. And we could argue greatly about what the basics are. But what do I mean by having different tools in your toolbox? Well, particularly, I think as we get into the era of home gyms, this is going to be very important because I think people who are serious about lifting in this coming era, because of the way this year has gone, I don't think people are going to be going to box gyms as much who are really serious about their training. Everyone's building home gyms. Half my clients are building home gyms. I know people everywhere building home gyms, wanting to build home gyms. All the manufacturers are sold out. Okay, people who are really serious are not going to be going to the box gyms anymore. I mean, they will, but it's going to be an enormous shift. And so understanding the tools you have available to you, as far as even the equipment, this is going to become a more important topic because we're all going to want more than a barbell and a rack at some point. And I think people have taken that for granted because, again, the people at the box gyms, they always have, they have the normal stuff, but then they always have a bunch of machines available. They have all these cables, dumbbells, everything else. They've got a pretty wide variety of tools usually available. The problem is that many people obviously focus too much on using some of these little specialty tools instead of solid fundamentals, which can be a problem, right? Because it's never a bad thing to have these available. I mean, hypothetically, in a perfect environment, and people say this might sound like blasphemy, to me as a coach, realistically, I wouldn't mind having 20 different machines if they weren't a floor space and money issue. That's the real problem. They're so limited in their use, but they're expensive and take up a lot of space. I wouldn't mind having 20 extra hammer strength machines of different ones laying around because they do have occasionally a specific use for a lifter. They can have their place in weak point training. You'll never build your base off of them. Okay, I want that to be clear. Certain weak point training, taking out a lot of the stabilizers to work on some specific weak points, specific heads of a muscle, and maybe a certain range of motion. Right? Those machines can have their place. I wouldn't ever make heavy use of them, but they have their place. They're a tool in the toolbox. Most people use them excessively, don't they? Having cables, dumbbells, having full set of dumbbells, all the way down from 2.5-pound dumbbells all the way up to having 150s. Right? Not a bad tool to have available in your toolbox. Even the cables. But, here's the point. People talk about a home cable system. Well, no home cable system is ever going to compare with the high-end stuff at the gym. So you're better off using bands for anything you would have used cables for at home. Let's just be realistic. I think bands are generally better than cables, by the way, for most purposes. But in a home environment, there's no practical cable system you can afford on any reasonable budget and floor space that can compete with bands. The home cable systems are generally junk. You're going to destroy those if you're a serious lifter. They're going to be destroyed. So, not really saying that they're a good tool, but let's come over to the point. All these tools available. Tools are training methods. Tools are equipment. All right, we could argue bands, chains, specialty bars, having a reverse hyper. Reverse hyper is a phenomenal tool to have. I think everyone should have one. It's your first specialty piece of equipment at home, get a reverse hyper. Having dipping bars. There you go. These are all tools. Having a specific machine. It's a tool. What else are tools? Training protocols, training methods, ways of doing things, right? Dead stop exercises, the ability to adjust different heights on a box squat. Those are tools. Box squat's a tool, right? Maximum effort training and knowing how to do it is a tool. Dynamic effort training, doing speed work, is a tool in your toolbox. Finding hypertrophy exercises that have a stretch reflex, that have a very, very long stretch lengthening cycle, those are tools. Dead stop exercises are a tool. Okay? The more tools that we have available to us, the better. We just have to know how to use those tools and when. And that is the downside to having too many tools available. It's not that it's a bad thing to ever have them. I mean, again, in a perfect environment, a perfect gym would have every basic hammer strength machine or something similar you could think of. It would have every specialty bar, and I'm talking all the way over to multiple cambered bars. Right? More than one style of safety squat bar, having two different styles of football bars. Chains up to 300 pounds, bands up to 300 pounds, full dumbbells, right? Blocks to pull off of, reverse hypers, GHRs, everything, right? A perfect gym would have everything. That would be a perfect environment. The problem, people use those tools incorrectly. Having the tools is never a bad thing, even if you have a tool that you never use. I mean, if I had 20 machines sitting there, they're probably machines that I would never use in my entire life, even if I owned them. Because I just don't have a place for them if I have something else that's a better tool. But having them isn't a bad thing. I mean, having tools available that we know how to utilize is a good thing. But we must temper that with knowledge of when it's appropriate to use that tool. That's the problem we have in the commercial gym. People don't know how to use the tools correctly. They think that that machine is a primary exercise tool. It's not. It can be phenomenal. That machine that they love can be phenomenal in the right weak point training environment. Especially when you're running very high volume training and you've accumulated a lot of fatigue. You know what? Taking some of that support musculature and the spine and everything out of a lift can have a real solid place at certain points. Okay? But it's knowing when to do them and not thinking that any tool that's good has to be used all the time. That's our problem. We can have dozens of different tools. It doesn't mean we have to use them. We can have an amazing tool that we have available to us as a lifter or a coach that we might only use for a 3-week phase once per year. All right? We don't have to use every tool that we have available to us all the time. Just like I'll tell people, this over here, this is a great tool to use. In their mind, they have to use it every workout now. Okay, that's a problem. That's a problem. We have to learn when it's appropriate to use these tools. And these tools need to be implemented one at a time. In other words, build your fundamentals and the basics. Understand the basics. Learn to incorporate these tools as you go. And every tool needs to flow with the totality of your program. Right? Nothing is done in isolation. Everything in your training has to flow with the context of the larger program, your recovery, your adaptation, knowing whether you need to use the axle bar for the rows or the straight bar right now. How does it fit into the rest of your training program and address weak links and fit in with recovery? Right? Having the tools is good. Knowing when to use those tools is better. just a point I wanted to make with that. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.